We start with new details emerging about that shocking Gangland shooting in Melbourne, where notorious underworld figure Sam the Punisher Abdul Rahim was slain in a daylight execution. This morning we can show you new video of a phone call in the lead up to Abdul Rahim's killing between him and a rival crime boss.
Hey, I'm going to protect myself. None of your boys anywhere to be seen down here.
This ghost. They'll meet. Hey, well, listen to me. Let's not joke around.
Come on, bro. I'm still alive, bro. 8 shots later and I'm still alive.
You're lucky.
Not so lucky. Let's go now to 9 Melbourne reporter Christina Hearn, live in Preston, where the shooting took place. Christine, there were 4 suspects involved in this organised hit.
And Carl, this time they didn't miss. Sam the Punisher, Abdul Rahim, shot several times, twice in the head as he walked in the car park of this Quest Hotel on busy High Street in Preston. His girlfriend was with him at the time. She escaped unharmed, but there were several distressed friends and relatives that turned up here at the scene. Abdul Rahim had actually been overseas for several months, dodging his numerous enemies. It's believed he only actually returned to Melbourne on Monday before checking into this hotel. A white Porsche was found torched in reservoir, believed to be connected to this shooting. Abdul Rahim had survived 7 attempts on his life. Yesterday morning, that luck ran out. It's a picture as infamous as the man himself. Sam, the Punisher Abdul Rahim, shot 8 times after leaving a funeral in Fawkner in 2022, but miraculously survived. In May last year, his home in Thomastown was shot 17 times, but the hit team missed their target. Abdul Rahim first came into the public eye in 2015 for brawling with a rival kickboxer in the Melbourne Magistrates Court. Months later, he crashed his Ferrari while speeding, killing an 88-year-old woman, injuring 10 others, spending just 2 years behind bars. Before he was sentenced, he allegedly lured drug trafficker Kadir Oz to his death. Oz's allies wanted Abdul Rahim dead. One of those allies is Kazim Hamad. He is now one of Australia's most powerful and most wanted criminals. From Dubai, he runs the syndicate behind Melbourne's tobacco war. He allegedly put a $1 million bounty on Abdul Rahim's head. Hamad certainly wasn't Abdul Rahim's only enemy. Police now are hunting for the hitmen. But Carl and Sarah, there are real fears that this will spark another bloody underworld war.
Sure seems that way. Thank you, Chris.
A Queensland mother who allegedly drugged her child for clicks and cash will find out today whether she'll be granted bail. Live to Today Queensland reporter Andrea Crothers at Brisbane Magistrates Court. Andrea, some disturbing new details have come to light.
Good morning, Jane. The court heard that the influencer mum hid her baby under a blanket while injecting her feeding tube with unprescribed drugs, and that the whole thing was allegedly caught on CCTV. Prosecutors didn't deny that the child had a treatable genetic condition that caused seizures, but it wasn't fatal. It's alleged the baby became unconscious 30 to 40 minutes later after those non-prescribed drugs were put into her system, and then also underwent 2 brain surgeries that weren't needed at the time. So that 34-year-old mum, she'll find out today whether she has been granted bail. Her defence team has proposed she wear an ankle monitoring bracelet and be allowed to move between 5 different residences while also having no contact with her child. Jane.
Andrea, thank you. 14 members of the National Socialist Network have been granted bail after facing court in Adelaide over a white supremacy rally on Australia Day. Among them was their leader Thomas Sewell, who was remanded in custody after refusing to sign his bail agreement, saying he is not accepting the law's authority. There was also a surprise arrest outside the court of a senior member of the group who was later released on bail.
Where is your ID? I don't have it on me.
Joel Davis,
where is it?
You're wearing a Nazi symbol on the Sunday. Arrest me.
I wasn't wearing a Nazi symbol. What symbol? Don't arrest me. Hands behind your back. Stand back.
Bail conditions for those men released include bans on associating with any other member of the Socialist Network and attending war memorials. An allegedly armed man has been shot by police in North Queensland. Officers were first alerted to the man following reports of threats being made at a home in Townsville just before 4:30 yesterday afternoon. The 23-year-old was shot 3 times before he was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. A third man has now been arrested over the alleged assault of 2 off-duty officers in Sydney's inner west last week. The incident resulting in a 25-year-old suffering severe head injuries after he was repeatedly kicked and punched in the head. A 22-year-old man remains at Newtown Police Station, while an 18 and 20-year-old have already both been charged with assault. Multiple major bushfires are raging on in Victoria's west, with watch and act warnings still in place around the Little Desert National Park and the Grampians. Evacuation orders have been lifted for Dombulla and Whale. For one resident, though, on the outskirts of Little Desert, nothing is left. Tony returned to find his home of 10 years gutted by the flames.
That's the shed, machinery in that, cars in that, all the cars there, swimming pool in the back, nothing left of that, and everything's still on fire, it's all smouldering.
The Little Desert Nature Lodge, a popular accommodation and wedding venue, was also destroyed by the blaze. Sydney has been soaked by a storm overnight after the city sweltered through extreme heat. Wind gusts of almost 100 kilometres an hour causing the cool change, rapidly dropping temperatures. Rain and hail blowing in from the south, battering sunburnt suburbs. Mossman enduring flash flooding near the Spit. Now to a Today weather alert, and residents in far North Queensland already dealing with heavy rainfall are now facing the threat of potential cyclones. 3 tropical lows are predicted to form in the coming week over the Coral Sea and the Gulf of Carpentaria, with at least one expected to have an impact on the state. There is also a moderate chance that all 3 could develop into cyclones from Saturday. Now to the Middle East, where Iran's foreign minister has delivered a stern warning to US President Donald Trump. Live to Nine's Europe correspondent Jessica Millward. Jess, this comes as more aid enters the Gaza Strip.
Good morning, Jane. That's right. So far, we have seen aid drive into Gaza with this ceasefire holding for over a week now, mostly via road, but now it is being delivered via air. The first drop from Jordan taking place today, the first of many drops, in fact. We've seen hundreds of thousands of people returning to their homes in Gaza's north, or what is left of their homes. They're finding complete and utter devastation. Families are also being reunited after 15 months of conflict as Donald Trump doubles down on his comments that Gazans should be moved to neighbouring countries like Egypt and Jordan. Iran's foreign minister has given a very rare interview to Sky News UK and has addressed Trump's comments. Take a look.
You know, Palestine cannot be deleted from this region and Palestinians cannot be expelled. So my suggestion is something else. Instead of Palestinians, try to expel Israelis. Take them to Greenland so they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Clearly a tongue-in-cheek reference there to Donald Trump's plans to take over Greenland. Iran's foreign minister also said if the US and Israel targeted the country's nuclear facilities, that would be a crazy move and spell disaster for the region. Jane?
Jess, thank you. The cause of a unit fire on the Gold Coast, which sent a man scaling down from the top floor to safety, has now been identified. A charging lithium battery overheating, prompting this warning from firefighters.
He put it in his freezer to try cool it down, and that doesn't cool it down once it's started, it then will explode. You just got to take it outside and bring it to the safest place you can, drop it in a pool, but if it's too hot, just get your family and everyone out.
A man in his 40s suffered burns to his arms, but he was not seriously injured. Mortgage holders could soon get some relief, with economists predicting a fall in inflation when new figures are released this morning. Live to Today federal politics reporter Liz Daniels at Parliament House. Liz, the election date could depend on this.
Yeah, Jane, these are the numbers that both mortgage holders and the Prime Minister are waiting for, because the inflation figures out today will inform whether the Reserve Bank cuts rates at its February meeting. Economists are widely tipping good news from today's data, forecasting that key figure of underlying inflation will have cooled to as low as 0.5% in the final quarter of the last year. And if that's the case, the rate annually would come into the midpoint of the Reserve Bank's target range of between 2 and 3%. The numbers are released at 11:30 this morning, but of course there are no guarantees that a cooling in inflation will automatically mean interest rates come down. The financial markets say there's an 80% chance of a February rate cut, with the broad expectation that if the RBA holds fire, it will then move at its next meeting in April. Now, this all could have a bearing on when we go to the polls. Rate relief would be the first step to easing pressure on households, and the Prime Minister knows that could put voters in a much better mood.
It sure could, Liz. Thank you. Queensland Police are sounding the alarm over capacity issues at the state's watch houses. Calls are growing for the government to fast-track new facilities as officers claim they have no option but to let repeat offenders back onto the streets. Sydney-siders are pushing for a crackdown on e-bikes this morning as they continue to take over the footpaths near the beaches. Live to today's Jack Hahn, who is in Cronulla for us this morning. Jack, only a handful of fines have been issued for illegal riding.
Yeah, you're right about that. Look, we know there's nothing more that gets our blood boiling like push bikes. So this morning, we're not talking about cyclists that clog up the roadways. We're actually talking about the emergence of e-bikes, also known as fat bikes. They have surged in popularity here in New South Wales, sales jumping by a staggering 322% over a 2-year period, but also jumping with that, the complaints surrounding them. So this morning we're really hearing about these two key groups of concern emerging among these riders. The first one, the food delivery drivers that you often see in urban areas. It's like a movie out of, a scene out of Fast and Furious. They are rules of their own, swerving in and out of traffic, often blowing red lights and jumping onto pathways and off pathways. So that's the first group that's of a concern. And then the second group is actually youths. You particularly find them riding those e-bikes here at coastal communities like Cronulla, for example, often getting up to speeds they're probably not even allowed to do on their L plates. So those are the two concerned groups. And as such, councils right across Sydney are banding together this morning, calling for a crackdown. At the moment, the legislation a little unclear. Often this falls to the thin blue line, which we know are already stretched. So police don't necessarily have the resources to be cracking down on this. So council wants to have some powers to crack down on this. And the Shire here, the Southern Shire Council, actually wants these devices, these e-bikes, to be fitted with sound devices so at least you can hear them before you see them coming. So we know this is an issue that gets many Sydney Shires fired up this morning, and council wants a crackdown. Jane?
They are everywhere, Jack. Thank you. An Adelaide woman charged over an alleged drunken boat crash that seriously injured a swimmer has faced court. The 43-year-old is accused of being behind the wheel when it collided with a 20-year-old woman in Mannum on Sunday night. She was released on bail on the condition that she does not have contact with the alleged victim or any other witnesses. Public sector projects over $10 million in New South Wales now need to undergo gender impact assessments under new rules set by the state's treasurer. The assessments will need to be completed before any funding approval, with bike paths, bus routes and drought preparedness initiatives just some of the examples. The Coalition's proposed 2-year ban on foreign investors buying properties has been strongly backed by many Australians. Just under 70% of voters are in favour of the move, with a higher support in marginal electorates. It has, however, been labelled too small to make a difference by the government, which claims investors already face restrictions on buying homes.